You want to close a deal. Okay. So overselling is something that is a very bad tactic, right? So instead, what should you present to the client? People prefer setting up their business in Dubai. Like, I just want simple, few points that why? Why do people prefer that more? The wealthy optimize their taxes. Now, what does this mean? So,
Mhm.
what are the red flags in a founder? Like, if you met someone and he's a founder of a particular business, what are the things that can immediately make you off? फैक्ट ये है I was like, the time Sir will enter, this question has to be, there. How do you decide that, okay, I'm gonna invest in this business? Like, what are
Okay.
those, checkpoints you have to check before investing in any business?
This is a fairly broad question, but the answer is should, in my opinion, be fairly straightforward for most people. When you look
Okay.
at a business, you have to look at only a few characteristics. I would say the most important one being longevity. So if you're going to invest in
Okay.
something, there are two parts over here. One is going to be startups, and one is going to be legacy businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at legacy businesses, if they've been running for a while, they already have a proof of concept that has succeeded over the years.
Right.
So there is some amount of viability testing, so to speak, already built into their success story, right? We've got years worth of conditioning
Okay.
in the financials, in the operations, in the reputation in the market.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at startups, then that's a high risk, high return opportunity.
Okay.
And of course, you know that you could put your money and you could lose it tomorrow, or you could make billions, depending on what kind of a business opportunity it is. So if I would personally look at legacy businesses, I am not comfortable with the gambling aspect of businesses with what the VCs do.
Okay.
So if you are looking at it from a private equity investment or an investment as a family office or even as a private individual and not an institution into a business, the first thing you should look at is their history.
Okay.
History of operations, the stumbles that they've had along the way, their numbers, their finances, their books will give that story away. It's like literally a storybook that will page by page tell you exactly what they've been through and how they've dealt with it.
Okay.
So history is the first thing that I would look at. And then, of course, there's a lot more that goes into the due diligence aspect of it. History also includes reputation that has been built over years and years worth of effort, toil, blood, sweat, and tears of the promoter and maybe the promoter's family. And that is a telltale sign of how much love and effort has gone into building that business to where it is today. So investing in it is essentially you buying into all that effort in a very short amount of time.
Okay. But
Yeah.
basically, history matters a lot to you, right?
History is as I said, it doesn't lie, right? So people
Okay.
can make the future. They can always tell you, I'm going to be this and I'm going to be that. Well, history is already done, right? So the history is going to speak for itself. And oftentimes, if things haven't changed in the variables in the running and the operational style of the business and the ownership, the structure, management, all that, then history is going to continue to repeat itself.
Okay.
Barring the fact that there are some major circumstances like the market shift happening, or a president in a big country comes in and starts applying tariffs everywhere. Beyond that, the history is going to continue. People are going to work
Got
off of
it.
that history of reputation, that history
Okay.
of delivery, and they're going to continue to expect that business to do well, even if it's not growing. At least it's stable.
Okay. But have you seen any business in which the history might not be that good, but like later
Absolutely.
on they pulled it very well?
Absolutely. So, and that's a good sign too. So, what you actually should be very careful about is a business where it has shown you nothing but good stories. Something that has
Okay.
a 20-year history of performing in a stellar manner should actually, as good as it sounds, it should actually come across a little bit of as a red flag also. It's just like, what is being hidden here? There has to be something off. So a business like that, which has never faced any challenges or has survived through a variety of global and local economic impacts, you'll see them having a very slow growth rate. So if you have
Okay.
something that has a 20-year history and a fast growth rate, something's off. So a
Okay.
business that has suffered and struggled and come out of it tells you a
Hmm.
lot about its ability to struggle and suffer through another such strife in the
Okay.
future. And
Okay.
it gives you a very clear playbook of how they managed it, what maybe they made mistakes, maybe they
Mm-hmm.
did something right to get it out
Mm-hmm.
of it,
Mm-hmm.
and they are prepared for something similar in the future. So that's a sign of a very resilient, astute ownership structure
Okay.
in place.
Mm-hmm.
If they have come out of it and they've proven themselves year after year to survive in a positive manner.
Okay. Okay. But you mentioned a word red flag. Okay. So,
Mhm.
what are the red flags in a founder? Like, if you met someone and he's a founder of a particular business, what are the things that can immediately make you off about that person?
Uh, Overselling. If a person
Okay.
actually
Okay.
has a business that is fairly successful,
Hmm.
you do not have to go in the direction of overselling your business. The business numbers basically sell themselves, right? I mean,
Okay.
um, this is something we would actually experience in a very straightforward manner, even when we're going
Mm-hmm.
to a retail outlet to buy an item.
Mm-hmm.
If you like something, it doesn't need to be sold. If you see the facts and the product and the quality and the delivery of the particular object, item, product,
Okay.
you don't need for it to be drilled into you that this is the best product, this is the best product.
Okay.
Because that's coming either from a place of insecurity of the owner on a psychological perspective, or
Mm-hmm.
that's coming from something that's being glossed over,
Okay.
something that's being covered up, right? Maybe an
Okay.
icing is being put on this to actually show that there is a flaw that you should not see.
Okay.
Often that's a sales tactic also. And I've
Mm-hmm.
seen this happen where people oversell. I've seen people in our business
Mm-hmm.
also oversell and have lost contracts,
Then you correct them,
specifically because
right?
there's no choice,
Okay.
right? I mean, I have to step
Okay.
in, and
Right.
I have
Mm-hmm.
seen success in closing and a business, winning contracts,
Hmm.
maybe even building trust with the client purely by
Okay.
having a very hands-off, empirical approach, right?
Okay.
Here's the business. This is what we do. Our history speaks for itself.
Okay.
I hope you find our contract and terms and conditions and pricing fine.
Okay.
Um, but it's ultimately your choice. That I'm
Mm-hmm.
not here to sell you ourselves. My story is already there. You're
Okay.
talking to me because you've seen my story. So if I'm going to consistently tell you that we are the best and we tell you everyone else is bad, that
Hmm.
looks bad on me. We are the
Okay.
best.
Okay.
Others are good too, but we feel we are the best. But the decision is yours. So you don't need to oversell yourself when you have the strengths on your side.
Okay. But like, just tell me so that, for example, you want to close a deal. Okay. So overselling is something that is a very bad tactic, right? So instead, what should you present to the client? Like if you are gonna tell them these things or you are gonna resolve these problems, then it is up to you.
I think that requires a business development person, a salesperson, or anyone who's in the negotiating position from the seller side, the one who's
Okay.
selling the service or product,
Mm-hmm.
to have a very clear understanding of what the pain points of the consumer is or the client is.
Okay.
The client is speaking to you
Hmm.
because he has a need. Beyond the need, he has a certain pain point. Once you understand, here are the things that he's suffering and struggling with, right? Maybe in a contracting business, it could be that he does not trust the contractor because he
Okay.
feels like every contractor basically either oversells or
Mm-hmm.
hides something in the middle. The variations will pop up,
Okay.
or they will say something and do something else. So there's
Mm-hmm.
a reliability, trustworthiness, trust factor essentially that
Hmm.
might be a major pain point. So
Okay.
for this particular sector, you would
Hmm.
attack those points first and
Mm-hmm.
be like, here it is.
Hmm.
As a service provider, my
Hmm.
company will be able to, number one, be
Hmm.
100% transparent. Whatever we give you is the absolute final. There is absolutely
Mm-hmm.
no discussion beyond this. If we've
Mm-hmm.
committed to something, that's final.
Okay.
If we don't deliver something, here is how we will fix that particular situation or compensate you. And at the end of the day,
Okay.
please look at our references and all that stuff. So you would attack those points first to build that level of trust. So you really don't need to oversell. You're not selling yourself. You are understanding what his issues would be with you or anyone else in that industry. And
Okay.
that's when he decides, I like these people because they're reliable, they're trustworthy, and they're solving my issue.
Okay. Got it. Got it. But like you have been in this business sector for a very long time, right? But I want to know
About
this
15
from
years.
you. Okay. What
Yeah.
what's exactly your business? Like, what do you do?
So primarily we work in the scaffolding sector, which is,
Okay.
I don't know if you are aware of what scaffolding is, but it's
Hmm.
essentially steel tubes that are
Okay.
used for construction to support
Hmm.
everything from floor slabs when they're being casted in a new building
Okay.
to maybe even on the outside to give access
Hmm.
to the building's facade for painting, windows, installation, and whatnot.
Okay.
That's primarily our business. We manufacture it in India, but we give it out on lease here
Okay.
in the UAE.
Hmm.
And been doing this for about 25 odd years, going strong, one of the largest in the country.
Got it.
Um, so it's been a good run so far. And we're expanding by doing exactly what we talked about at the first point is starting to acquire companies
Got it. Hmm.
in other countries
Hmm.
where we would buy a majority stake in that company as a means of expansion rather than setting up our own office organically. Yeah.
Got it. But like after being, in this particular company for so long, I think this would be a perfect question to ask. Do you believe in work-life balance?
There's nothing to
Initially,
believe. Yeah. There's not
like,
much to believe here. I mean,
okay,
work-life balance is the only way to go.
but
I have seen both
initially,
sides.
hmm.
Initially, meaning, what do you mean by initial?
Okay, so for example, there's a 21 or 22-year-old entrepreneur and he's
Yeah.
going to, start his own business. So at that phase of life, do you think that work-life balance will make him achieve his goals?
Honestly, there's two parts to this
Okay.
answer. There is a
Hmm.
yes and a no answer also.
Hmm.
So age is a critical factor because it depends on a person how committed he is or he or she is or passionate he or she is about the opportunity they're working on. Because your balance at that point in life is what? I mean, how are you going to define work-life balance when you're 22? In all fairness, right? Because
Okay.
you don't really have your life has just begun, and your life is going to be
Hmm.
defined by the steps you're going to take now. So your work and life is literally that business.
Okay.
Let's say you're
Okay.
going to settle down 3 5
Hmm.
years down the line,
Hmm.
whatever the fair age for getting married, settling down, and starting a family is,
Hmm.
then the definition slowly starts unraveling itself into your version of what work-life balance is, because now you have more responsibilities, you have a partner, you have potentially children, you have family
Hmm.
obligations and whatnot.
Hmm.
So the answer of work-life balance, whether it's belief in it or whether it is to actually implement it
Hmm.
in its core definition, differs by age. So a 22-year-old, there is no other life beyond the life of trying to achieve, to build, to grow,
Right.
and that is going to happen only when you put the extra hours in there.
Hmm.
And that will still be your own version of work life balance, just like work hard,
Right.
play hard. So we're
Hmm.
going to
Got
spend
it. Got it. Hmm.
18 hours a day working, then I'm still going to
Hmm.
party 2 hours, for example,
Hmm.
and then sleep for 4 hours, and I'll get up because your body at that age can handle that.
Right.
Maybe up until
Okay.
25 or
Okay. Hmm.
27, you'll be able to handle that fairly well. And then, of
Hmm.
course, after that, life slows down when more elements come into your equation, right?
Got it.
Whether
Got
that's,
it.
again, like I said, marriage, family, kids,
Okay.
whatnot.
Hmm.
So it's a variable answer,
It
right? It's not
depends
very
on
clear.
your age.
It
Like
depends on
if
the
you
phase
are
of
in
your
your
life also.
initial years, then obviously you have to be completely in, right? Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, that is
Okay.
what's going to be your work and life at the same time.
Okay.
But
Got it.
that split starts happening later on in life. Now, you could have a shock later on in life where, let's say, you
Hmm.
were married, you got divorced, you left a job, started a business. Maybe you are
Okay.
still married, but
Hmm.
you're trying to start a business. Then that work-life balance shift happens again because now your work
Hmm.
is the factor that's driving your life. You won't
Okay.
be able to provide for your family and your kids and even create a stable life for them if you aren't
Hmm.
pouring a lot more energy than you are expected to, right? So there will be
Okay.
some amount of a shift that will happen. It will start
Hmm.
overlapping.
Okay. Got it.
So the definition changes with a
With
variety of
age.
factors.
Okay. Got it. But sir, like before starting a business, like this question is for everyone. What are the things that you should make sure that, okay, these are the, like again, the checkpoints that I have to make sure.
I think the very first thing is about discipline. If
Okay.
you are looking to start a business, you have to understand that even though um, there's going to be a ridiculous amount of challenges,
Okay.
but the way to get around challenges and to conquer them,
Okay.
you need to have some understanding of how to build discipline for yourself, whether that's understanding your own personal health, both mental and physical,
Okay.
It's going to be about understanding the concept of time and how to
Mm-hmm.
maximize the utilization of this time. Now, nobody taught me this when I was younger.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that's not something
Okay.
anyone teaches you. It's sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you learn it the hard way. Sometimes you're lucky enough to have a good mentor and
Mm-hmm.
they can guide you through this.
Hmm.
But discipline is key. Then because that will tell you exactly how much time and effort you'll be able to put and what kind of productivity you're going to get out of it. And
Okay.
as soon as you realize that it takes me 5 days to do something what I think could have been done in 2 days,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then you know you have to improve yourself.
Okay.
Not
Hmm.
for yourself alone, but for the sake of the business. Because if that business fails, everything fails for you. You are the
Mm-hmm.
biggest
Got
loser,
it.
right? Business is
Mm-hmm.
gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is, of course, not lying to yourself. The biggest issue
Okay.
is when entrepreneurs, anyone who's an aspiring entrepreneur, lies to them and thinks themselves as being the ultimate executioner of pretty much any opportunity out there, any idea out there, not identifying their weaknesses.
Okay.
And therein lies the third and most important point is to be able to know when to ask for help.
Okay.
People always think entrepreneurs, there's a certain level of arrogance, there's a certain level of, I guess, narcissism involved, and it revolves around me. I've set this up, it's my idea, I should control it, I will do everything. Not realizing that, yes, you can, but you're not good at everything. You
Okay.
are going to be terrible at a few things. And that's when you
Got it.
recruit the right resources to bring them in,
Mm-hmm.
give them a little bit of an incentive, and they will help you grow. Ultimately, you are the greatest benefactor. An idea is worthless until executed.
Okay.
And
Okay.
and a bad idea executed is worse off than a good one, right?
Got it.
So
Hmm.
that's the
But sir, like I have noticed this, like in people of your age. For example, they have been running a company for 20 or 30 years. And now that they have to follow new trends, and the quicker one things. So when someone tells them about this, that when a new person comes, an entrepreneurs and tell them that, okay, you should do this and that person, don't believe to that new generation person. They just stick to their traditions and they believe that they have more experience. So maybe they are right. Have you seen someone like this?
I deal with it on a daily basis. So,
Okay.
of course, whenever you have a family business, this is something you deal with on a daily basis.
Okay.
Uh, this is disheartening, but this is not unique to, if you would say, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, or Millennial and Gen Z, or
Okay.
you'll say any previous generation leading up to millennials. Every generation has a certain level of distrust for the one that is below them because they use a function of their history and experience and the time that they have spent on this planet
Okay.
as an indicator that they are superior. The
Okay.
problem with this is the older generation comes with experience in very specific scenarios.
Hmm.
Those specific scenarios is what you can learn from. So you should understand that. The idea here is to understand that the older generation is always going to have an ego about this. As soon as time passes away, they
Right.
have some level of
Okay.
they have some level of success.
Hmm.
Um, they're going to be egotistical about it.
Okay.
At that point in time, instead of taking it as a disheartening challenge that you can't overcome, you have to
Hmm.
understand you have still something to learn from them. You have
Right.
something to learn about what their experiences were,
Hmm.
where they stumbled, how they went forward. So there is a story here that you have to take out of them.
Okay.
But their advice will often not be ideal. It won't be effective. It won't
Okay.
be good for you because this is irrelevant for the market today.
Got it. Hmm.
Previously, the market shifts would happen over a 10, 15-year time. Right now, the market shifts are happening 2 years at a time. So it's such
Hmm.
a fast cycle that the older generations, as much as experience that they've got, they're irrelevant in a matter of 2 years.
Okay.
So, but they still come with a certain level of experience. If you can pick up what their core values are
Okay.
and implement those core values,
Hmm.
you have the perfect formula for success. You
Okay.
have the stability of the older generation and
Hmm.
you have the agility and flexibility of the newer.
Okay. So basically, it has to be the mix of both the things. Then only it
Correct.
can get in the right direction. Okay. But sir, like I was talking, I had conversation with few people, those who work around Silicon Valley. I have met so many people. What I have heard from them is that the culture of Silicon Valley is changing. And when I ask them that what are the changes, so they have their different opinions about that. I want to ask this to you. What do you think right now is the culture of Silicon Valley?
But previously, Silicon Valley was known for being the traditional statement was move fast and take stuff.
Right.
So it was almost always about how quickly can we get to a result, even if the
Mm-hmm.
result was non-ideal. So
Okay.
if you're trying to achieve 100%, you're reaching 60, but let's get it out there, right? So it
Okay.
was about speed over agility, speed and agility over perfection.
Okay.
Today, a lot of that is lost. Not in that they are not fast; they are ridiculously fast, but everything is iterative.
Mm-hmm.
The extremely unique, cutting edge, earth shattering new ideas are not coming up as fast as they do. And you can still look at Y Combinator and you can see the list of all the different types of startups that are being either funded or are in the pipeline. And you'd see a stark difference between what you would see 20 years ago and you would see today. Uh, there's a less risk taking. And when I say
Okay.
that, it's about taking a couple of ideas
Hmm.
and combining them together, and that's a new opportunity right there.
Okay.
Whereas the Silicon Valley of old was here's something new, never been done before. It
Okay.
was always cutting edge. It was always built in a way that would change the landscape
Mm-hmm.
entirely. Now it
Mm-hmm.
would be like, oh, they're doing it this way. I'm going to just tweak it a little bit and make it this. Or
Okay.
it's going to get tweaked further and made something else.
Okay.
So it's iterative and it's not, in my opinion, as innovative as it used to be.
Okay. Okay. This is something new. But like, what do you think, according to you, speed or perfection? What matters the most in business?
In any business, it depends largely on the sector you're in.
Okay.
So in a certain type of offering where your customer's attention is easily regained, speed
Okay.
will be king. What
Okay.
that means is if in case there's an app that's come out
Mm-hmm.
and if someone is disappointed by how bad it performs, in a
Hmm.
matter of 3 to 6 months, that person can be brought back onto that app. Once the newer versions come out, you can entice them to come back.
Okay.
In service businesses and legacy businesses, that's not very
Mm-hmm.
easy. Once your reputation takes a hit, it takes years sometimes for it to be rebuilt. So
Okay.
you have to look at the speed versus um, I mean, the speed argument essentially is a function
Hmm.
of the type of industry you're in. Certain
Okay.
industries are not very flexible and amenable to you just moving fast. You can't move fast in the construction sector, and
Okay.
there is not
Hmm.
going to be that level of innovation that's going to happen. It takes decades for anything innovative to be acceptable in the common uh, market
Okay.
as a new product or a new service or a new technology.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you would come to something that's tech only,
Okay.
that's going to get adopted super fast. And if there are
Okay.
bad reviews, it doesn't take much to have version 2 and 3 and 4 come out.
Okay.
So that it's
That
sector
depends on the
dependent.
sector. Okay. But
Correct.
I saw your post, Instagram post, and there's a quote that says, wealth isn't only earned, it's enjoyed. What does it mean? Like, what
Well, I could put
exactly
it to
does it
you.
mean?
Well, I could put it to you. What did you think you took away from that? And then I'll tell you what I think.
Like I tell you, for me, it's okay. Wealth isn't only earned, it's enjoyed. Maybe you are trying to say that wealth isn't something that, okay, you earned it, like one time, and then it just sticks to you. You have to make it enjoyed so that it's keep moving with you. Something like that.
That's exactly right, actually. So the way you
Okay.
said it is exactly what was the intent behind it.
Okay.
You it's very easy for there to be enough wealth generation that happens, and that
Okay.
happens with the older generation, and then
Mm-hmm.
maintaining a scarcity mindset and excuse me,
Okay.
just
Hmm.
sit on it.
Okay.
And the other aspect of this is to understand that there is if it allows you to take more risk, this wealth allows you to endure more challenges, to enjoy its benefits, of course, but at the same
Okay.
time also play around and take more risk. So it's
Hmm.
therein where more doors will open up. It's about your mindset and your idealism, how you actually manage
Okay.
the utilization of that wealth. You could just
Okay.
sit on it and hold it, or you could use part of it smartly, of course, to endure more challenges
You
and
can make
grow
it more
further.
bigger. Okay.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Okay. So I was right.
Yeah.
I was kind of right. Okay. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
There was one more, like a single line. It was the wealthy optimizes their taxes. Optimize their taxes. Now, what does this mean? Like this time, I don't know exactly.
Well, at any point in time, I mean, I'll keep it fairly short and straightforward because it's the idea here is all about optimization,
Okay.
right? The idea here is uh, going back to the original example of speed versus
Mm-hmm.
perfection.
Mm-hmm.
You start with speed and you move towards perfection.
Okay.
So with wealth, you have the ability to actually do things faster, take risks, take challenges, and all that stuff. And then you have the ability to use that wealth to optimize it over time.
Okay.
And you can optimize your earnings, you can optimize your business practices, you can optimize your taxes, you can optimize pretty much every aspect
Okay.
out there to squeeze that extra juice out of that wealth lemon, so to speak. So the
Okay.
idea
Got it.
here is optimization is not the beginning; it is an endless process. I mean, we
Okay.
hear about Jack Welch's stories and the
Mm-hmm.
GE story of Six Sigma and all that stuff. And that was essentially an ongoing process of an industry standard that pretty much everyone learns and when they do their MBA today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 Like one more thing I want to ask you is that what do you think which generation faced the most challenges in setting up a business while setting up a business?
Well, that's an ongoing challenge, right? I mean,
Okay.
when the millennials were
Hmm.
getting out of college, they were the first to face the ridiculous amount of challenges of a more competitive landscape. Now you
Okay.
got the Gen Z coming out, and they're facing a much more expensive market,
Hmm.
highly challenging, highly competitive,
Right.
low opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
inflation,
Hmm.
extremely fast-moving market. So I see Gen Z facing the max amount of challenges today.
Okay.
But then Gen Alpha is right around the horizon, right? The oldest Gen Alphas are now
Right.
entering
Okay.
the market, and they're going to face an even worse situation, and they're also going to be competing with Gen Zs.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's a split between Gen Z and Gen Alpha, just by a function of the fact that there are less alphas out there who are in the workforce.
Okay.
Um, but Gen Zs are facing significant challenges. Setting up businesses is not easy today. Hyper
Right.
competition, AI, and God knows what else is coming in
Mm-hmm.
as things that are, you got to keep learning. You got to keep having that extra training to keep yourself on the edge. It's a never ending process, which was not the case 30, 40 years ago. Even
Okay.
from boomers on up until the millennials, it was far simpler.
Mm-hmm. But do you think like AI can ever take over this complete scenario?
No, I do not
Completely.
feel that.
Same. Okay.
Not completely. No. There are always going to be project managers. There's always going to be a human element that will be required to tweak it because at the end of the day, the consumer is human.
Right.
Now,
Okay.
only a human can sell best to another human because there is an aspect of emotions involved.
Okay.
And if you're going to
Okay.
tweak those emotions,
Mm-hmm.
the AI will never be perfect at figuring out what those emotions can manipulate. But at the
Okay.
end of the day, humans have the ability to feel regret. They have
Mm-hmm.
the ability to feel betrayed, manipulated, and these are negative emotions.
Okay.
AI doesn't necessarily figured
Mm-hmm.
out that part of it yet.
Okay.
So it's only another human that will be able to understand that parts that maybe heal, maybe correct that particular scenario. So it's a
Okay.
very unique question, but there's always going to be a human person that's going to be on top who's going to bridge the buyer-seller gap, so to speak.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Also, sir, like, why do people prefer setting up their business in Dubai? Like, I just want simple, few points that why? Why do people prefer that more?
It's a much better business landscape,
Okay.
extremely transparent business practices. You've got
Mm-hmm.
very straightforward uh, opportunities to set up a license. You have very good taxation policies. You've got a variety of opportunities that are working in your favor.
Okay.
And of course, you have a multidisciplinary market. You have access to a variety of market conditions globally,
Mm-hmm.
extremely good
Hmm.
infrastructure. So you're talking about facts after facts after facts for this to
Okay.
be probably the best crossroads also. And trade is the most important way to do it. Not only can you do it locally, you have access to the whole world from here without any major trade restrictions, very low tariffs.
Okay.
So in a way, overall, more money in your pocket if you can find the right client,
Okay.
better legal system.
Okay.
So there's you can write bullet points, right? So
Like, obviously, it's more favorable. Well, okay. Like I have a very interesting question for you. That what do you think is the most often mistake that Indian businessmen make? Like, is there any particular mistake that you see?
There's quite a few actually, but
Okay.
I would look at it from what would be relevant to me.
Okay.
In Indian businessmen, I would say, but like obviously we're talking about the older generation
Mm-hmm.
because they have set up something and they are uh, maybe mid to late life
Mm-hmm.
stage.
Mm-hmm.
Often the biggest mistake they make is about planning for the longevity of the business, which is succession planning,
Okay.
understanding exactly how this business is going to outlive them, that the business is not defined by them, they are defined by the business. It's two different ways of looking at it. So the
Okay.
business has to continue. They are but um, a little uh, chocolate, as you want to say, that's in there, that's adding that extra flavor to it, rather than the business is the chocolate, you know. So when they
Hmm.
pass
Okay.
the
Okay.
reins on, they pass the reins on to someone, or they
Mm-hmm.
have to give it to someone else so that the business can continue and meet the needs of the clients and the customers far beyond the life of the original owner.
Okay.
That
Okay.
planning does not happen. And when I say does not happen, I say this 9 out of 10 times it won't happen. And it will lead to a significant amount of destruction of wealth
Okay.
over time
Mm-hmm.
and nothing but regret at the end of the day. And then the following generations, you'll see about 60% of the second generation failing to take over from the
Mm-hmm.
first generation. And another 90% after that from the third to the second generation. So you're looking
Okay.
at a lot of wealth destruction that happens where the backbone of the economy is um, family businesses and small businesses, SMEs.
Okay. Okay. But did you ever, like, do you have any regret while making a decision that, okay, if I would have said a yes or no, then maybe the scenarios would have changed?
Uh, of course, there's always going to be those regrets.
Okay.
At many points in
Okay.
time, it is about making decisions too fast.
Okay.
That's the one thing that I would say as a takeaway from everything is like if you're unable to make a decision, it's likely because there is some part of you that is telling you that you're not prepared to make that decision yet. So you need to
Okay.
give yourself the right amount of time rather than jump to that answer, come under pressure to, I need to just say something. No, just be like,
Okay.
I need my
Okay.
time. I'm going to get back to you tomorrow. I need to think
Mm-hmm.
this through. I need to
Mm-hmm.
figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I would handle it.
Okay. But like this is something like very valuable that while making a decision, you should slow down. If you are not prepared, so you should take your time. Okay.
It
Okay, great.
also is a function of your emotions. So you
Oh,
could
okay.
be angry, frustrated, something else might be on your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So any decision you're going to make at that time will be triggered by factors that are outside of your control.
So you should be neutral while making a decision, like no high
Or give
emotions.
yourself the time.
Okay.
Or give yourself the time. Just be like,
Okay.
I need to think about this and I'll get back to you.
Okay. Okay. But like if there's any one advice that you have to give to your 20-year-old self, is there something that you think as of now?
Um, Basically, yes, I would say find a mentor. Find
Okay.
someone who can guide you early
Okay. Okay.
on the right things to do, set the discipline, set the stage for how to learn, how to enhance, how
Mm-hmm.
to calm down and take decisions without letting emotions play out.
Okay. But do you
So,
think
yeah,
that if you would have a mentor at that age, then maybe like, the speed would be 2x of your work?
I wouldn't think it would be 2x. I would just think it would allow me to get the weapons and the tools to make it 2x. Now, whether
Okay.
after that I make
Okay.
my own mistakes and I don't use it the right way, that's on me.
Okay.
But I
Mm-hmm.
got the knowledge. Not
Mm-hmm.
having the knowledge in the first place when it wasn't commonplace.
Okay.
You
Okay.
needed someone to tell you because it was only later that you could Google search in ChatGPT, right? So
Like as you said, Chat GPT, I would like to mention that in today's time, I don't think that it is that tough, to get a good advice or something because there are so many things available that they can give you the right decision, right? Okay. Okay.
again, it's all a supportive element. It's not supposed to be the core of your workflow. It should
Okay.
be something that supports it, helps you save time, and shortens the amount of time to
Okay.
result. If
Okay.
it can speed up things,
Mm-hmm.
I use it all the time to maybe I'll write an email and I'll be like, I need to make it just sound more professional, put it in there, give it a few pointers and be like, fix this for me.
Right.
I'm not going to ask it
Okay.
to draft something from scratch
Okay.
because it won't get my emotions in there.
Hmm. But you can at least give your version and then you can make it, to a higher one. Okay. But sir,
Correct.
like the last thing that I want to talk about is like being optimistic and being delusional are two very different things, right? Like I have met a lot of people in business sector only. So basically, they are delusional about it that they are working so hard on this product. For example, they are doing drop shipping and they think
Okay.
that they are doing so much good creativity work, but in reality it is nothing compared to the market. So like what will you say to a person who is being delusional but who don't know the reality of his or her business?
Uh, it comes down to the same point, right? Ask questions. And ask as many times as you can because you'll have to ask it maybe a few times, and after that you'll just know exactly how it's supposed to work. But if you are going to continue to, so there's two definitions of delusion, right? One is
Okay.
going to be healthy and unhealthy delusion, right?
Okay.
Unhealthy delusion is the one where you're actively choosing to ignore available facts and information, and you do not want that information, even if it is available, by a simple question that you're going to ask.
Mm-hmm.
That will hurt your business, that will harm your operations, that will make you make a lot of mistakes, that will cost you money.
Okay.
Healthy delusion is gung ho, right? I'm just going to go forward. I'm going to be somewhat reckless about it. And um, I don't want to think about there. I know there are repercussions. I know actively that there are going to be consequences for my actions, but I'm not going to pay attention. I'm going to be deluded about these consequences and just focus on it. And often that leads you to a good result. So,
Okay.
not all the
Okay.
time, but oftentimes it will lead you in a direction that will, by pure sheer brute force and passion, it'll get you there. But the unhealthy delusion is where you require more information. Without that information, you can't even
Mm-hmm.
do this particular aspect. And you're
Hmm.
making assumptions and you're just like, screw it, it's not worth my time. I'm just going to do this, even though I know that that is a critical piece of information that is available
Right.
at one question away. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay. 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 So, sir, now let me take your 2 minutes of more time and then I'm gonna, like free you. So basically, like I can talk to you one more straight hour as well because you have so much of experience in your field. But just because you are so busy, I would, end this podcast now. But before that, I would like to mention two, three things that the Indian audience was super excited, like my audience especially. So basically, you are doing a great job, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It means a lot to us. Also, the content will be available on Instagram short form content reels, and the podcast on YouTube, Snapchat, LinkedIn. You can definitely watch it there.
Fantastic. Now I appreciate it and I look forward to it. Please do share it with me. I'll put it on my platform also. So it'll get a
Sure,
lot more visibility, hopefully.
sure. But
Yeah.
once again, sir, thank you so much for giving your time. We'll talk to you someday
My
soon.
pleasure. Absolutely.
Thank
Looking
you so
forward
much,
to it.
sir. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Means a
much.
lot.
Thank you.
Ending
Have a
this
wonderful
meeting.
day.
Bye bye.